Hello everybody, and welcome back to Resonance Reviews. Today I have another episode of From the Vault for you, and this time it's for the 7Hz G1, which is a budget single dynamic driver IEM with an MSRP of around $35 US. As of filming of this video, it's on sale for about $31, $32, but I'm still going to refer to it as though it's at its full price for 35 bucks. So the 7Hz G1, it has all metal shells, a rich sound signature, healthy bass response, a relatively premium unboxing experience for how cheap it is, a fairly balanced treble expression, and a relatively ergonomic design. So it's got some good things going for it. But one of the big things that isn't going for it is its marketing. For some reason, somebody decided that this is an IEM that you would market as being the greatest thing ever for gamers on a budget. Now, what even is a gaming IEM? Well, I'd like to assert, first of all, that there really isn't such a thing. But if you had to give it a definition, it would be an IEM that's, well, good for gaming. Well, what does it mean to be good for gaming? There's a lot of different kinds of games. If you look at the way that the discourse surrounding this IEM online has really gone, it looks like the average person has interpreted that as being good for competitive gaming. And now that's a quantifiable claim. So let's talk about some of the other cons before we jump right into the gaming claim. All right. So we talked about its pros, talked about the mismatch in marketing. Some of the cons are that it's got a cheap feeling cable. Really don't like the cable. The shells feel fairly nice in the hand. The contrast with the cable, not great. Thin, wiry, uncomfortable, just does not feel great in the hand. It's got a very mediocre case. This thing, it's nice enough when it's new, but I've seen some of these in older IEMs, from like the 2016, 2017 era, and they don't last very long. It has veiled vocals, both male and female, as a feature of its lower mid-range. It's got some QC and minor fit and finish issues where there's like pieces of hot glue or little bits of paint that aren't where they should be. And that, again, the tuning is not suited for the marketing claims. Now, let's talk a little bit about that tuning. Well, this is, tuned against the Harman curve. It's warm, it's bassy, it's got a flat-ish mid-range that has an elevated lower mid-range, a spike in the upper mid-range that then blends into the treble, which is actually a fairly relaxed treble. I like the tone of this treble, but unlike some of its peers and its price point, it isn't fully extended or airy in the same way that you might get from other single dynamic driver IEMs in the sub $50 range. Now, let's talk a little bit about the gaming claim. I've mentioned it a couple times right now. Competitive gaming, especially when it comes to first-person shooters, which is the most common genre of competitive game, relies very heavily on directional cues. Now, these directional cues come from all sorts of elements inside the game. They can be footsteps, gunshots, grenade blasts. The important part is not just that you hear these things, it's also that you hear them with enough clarity and precision that you can tell where they're coming from. I used a 7Hz G1 in a number of games. Black Ops 6, Modern Warfare 3. I used it for Apex Legends, which I'm not very good at, unfortunately. And I used it in Valorant as well. And a common trend I noticed is that if you're shooting weapons, at least in Call of Duty, let's focus on Call of Duty for a second. If you're shooting weapons that are suppressed, the sound of the suppressed shot covers up the sound of footsteps. And this ends up making you miss really important information about what your enemies are doing, what your allies are doing, where everybody is located relative to yourself. And further than that, if somebody throws a grenade, or let's say you're on a map where people are spamming grenades, you can't hear anything. It's chaos. There's so much bass and lower mid-range that the important information, like where the grenade is, or if there's footsteps near you, or if somebody's in a gunfight one lane over, it's all mush. It's not very good. If you have to use an IEM for gaming, there are other IEMs out there that have sound signatures that are better suited to gaming. So let's just move past that. That's my assertion there. Take it or leave it. But let's move past it. Let's talk about whether or not the IEM is good at all. Because I think that the marketing mismatch does a disservice to an otherwise fairly strong contender. I mean, it's not the best IEM in the $35 range. It's not a giant killer that's somehow destroying IEMs twice or thrice its price. No, but it's a solid choice if you like the things that it's good at. It has deep, juicy bass. It has solid sub-bass extension. The mid-range is warm and comfortable, and it's toned fairly well. The upper mid-range can express, it can express vocals okay. They're a little bit veiled, but it at least is fairly intelligible. And then you have a comfortable treble that, again, has a very satisfying tone. If you want to use language used by other reviewers, it's relatively musical in nature, where it's able to hit complex note and textures. It doesn't always fully resolve them, but it does actually kind of get up to that doorstep, even if it doesn't manage to follow through all the way, which is something that you see not happening on mainstream consumer IEMs, particularly very warm and bassy ones. So that's a plus in its books, especially considering how cheap it is. Now, in terms of an unboxing or the build quality or whatever you want to talk about for the physical aspects of it, I go over this in great detail in my full-length written review, which I encourage you to read through if you want to get more details about the 7Hz G1. This is more intended to be a very quick overview about the IEM itself and how it compares to a couple of its immediate peers. So if you want that, it's in the description down below. I will link it. So let's talk comparisons. So first of all, let's talk about the Tripowin Vivace. Vivace, I don't know exactly how to say it. I've never heard anyone else say it out loud. But this is a plastic shell. It's also single dynamic, and it's in the same roughly $30 to $35 range. The G1 has a richer, warmer sound signature with more pronounced bass. The Vivace is overall more focused on resolution and transparency. And to that end, it actually does suit an audiophile's primary goal a lot better, which is to get the most detail and the most accurate timbre and tonality that you possibly can. Now, if you want a fun tuning, something that's going to be more bombastic, more in your face, give you bass that's a little bit more on the tangible side, you're going to get that with the G1. If you want something that actually has full range sonic expression from the sub bass all the way up to the upper treble, something that is more capable of capturing detail and microtexturing, something that doesn't have veiled vocals, then you're going to want to go with the Vivace. Now, on the subject of gaming, because the Vivace has a leaner, lighter, more precise mid-range and mid-bass, I think you would also qualify, it would be more suited to gaming. So that's an example of an IEM that is better than the G1 for competitive gaming in games like Call of Duty, Valorant, Apex, etc. Now let's talk about the iVipQ Shanhai. This is a $44 IEM. I've seen it go as high as $59. It's not exactly in the same price point, but it's an IEM that is in the Chi-Fi arena that I thought was worth talking about, or at least was an interesting comparison. This is a 3 dynamic driver IEM, and it comes with a 4.4mm cable, which means if you don't already have a 4.4mm source, you're going to need one. The Shanhai is less V-shaped. It's more, I would say it's got a more natural mid-range, a more appealing and open timbre to it, and it's targeting a more analytical presentation. It has much more upper mid-range and treble presence, and it has that with a greater degree of precision and I would say vocalization than you can get with the G1. The G1 is warmer, it's thicker, it's heavier, it's all around less resolving, but the Shanhai is not nearly as fun to listen to for drum-heavy tracks or electronic music with very active or deep bass lines, things like that. So while the Shanhai does present a much more detailed and even metered expression, that's really only going to suit people who are looking for that kind of north of neutral experience. It's not going to suit people who are looking for very warm, harmonish sound signatures or people who want bassy, fun IEMs. But again, this is an example that the Shanhai is another example of an IEM that would be better than the G1 for gaming. Let's talk about the BQEYZ BQ10. This is another $30-ish Harman IEM, although this one has larger plastic shells. It does have a better cable, but unfortunately, I just think that this is an IEM that doesn't really hold up overall as well as the G1 does. Both of these IEMs are warm, both of them are bassy, both of them have some rolled off / less expressive trebles because they're kind of nestled deeper in the sound signature. But the G1 has an advantage of having pretty solid metal shells and increased ergonomics relative to the BQEYZ BQ10. I think that the BQ10's less focused mid bass and kind of softer sub bass yields for it a much less engaging sound signature than you would get with a 7 Hz G1. Now, it's not to say that nobody's going to enjoy the BQ10. I mean, it does have a 12mm driver. It is a little bit more resolving in the lower mid-range, and it doesn't have as veiled of vocals as the G1 has. But ultimately, the Harman bassy sound signature is supposed to have engaging bass, and I think that's where the BQ10 misses relative to the G1. Again, I don't recommend either of these IEMs for gaming, so I would just, if that's what you're here for, go look at one of the other ones. All right, moving on to a comparison with the KBear KB02. This is a hybrid IEM, and it's another bassy IEM, and this one's about $28. So it's a little bit cheaper than the G1 is, but it's in the same rough price point. So in terms of performance, I think that the KB02 is a stronger performer. I know that's a pretty it's a pretty controversial take. I've seen a lot of people who really don't like the KB02. They say it's got slow or out of phase bass. I'm not hearing it. Maybe it's something to do with my ear anatomy, but I think that the KB02 has equally as engaging bass as the G1, but it has it cleaner and more controlled. The KBear also has a leaner lower mid-range. It's got a more intelligible vocal range because it's got a much more precise and well-tuned upper mid-range that's completely free from vocal veiling. And it's got a more emphasized treble that does get a little bit grainy in the upper treble, which is something that the G1 doesn't do because it's very linear, it's very relaxed in its upper treble. Now, the KB02 I think is a much better IEM overall in terms of sound. Yes, if you have bad luck with your ear anatomy and it's just the bass sounds slow or out of phase, it's not going to sound good. But honestly, that's kind of the way that the G1 sounds to me. It's not super slow, it's not super out of phase, but it doesn't sound perfect to my ears either when it comes to bass precision, bass speed, bass intelligibility. It's not all there either. For the KB02, another big downside is that it has a bone conduction driver, so if you kind of flick the shell, it sounds like it's got this kind of echoey sensation, echoey feeling, and when you're talking while the music isn't playing, you'll notice that it kind of reverberates through the shells. That may annoy you. I know some people where it really, really bothers them, and that could be a deal breaker for you, so be aware of that. And the G1 is a lot easier to power than the KBear. The KBear does require that you actually have a decent source, and it benefits from that kind of headroom that you get from using something that's got enough power to spare while reaching, listenable volumes. The G1 can just pretty much be thrown on anything. So it's much more flexible and you can use it with a lot more devices. So I guess in that sense, it would be better for gaming if you're plugging your earphones directly into some sort of handheld device or controller that doesn't have a very good output circuit for its integrated DAC and amp. But if you're gaming on a computer or on a phone where you can use a USB Type-C adapter, I think the KB02 does represent a significant advantage when it comes to intelligibility, especially in first-person shooters if you're going for gaming specifically. Again, I don't recommend, if someone were to come to me and say, hey, what should I buy? I'm trying to game. Here's my whole wallet, what should I buy? It's none of these. But these are recommendations for people who are kind of needing a budget, less expensive IEM anyways, who still want to use it for gaming. So do keep that in mind. when I say that these are better suited for gaming, these are not wholesale endorsements of these products as proper gaming transducers. These are relative statements meant for people who need an IEM in this price range anyways. So keep that in mind. So now for the conclusion. The 7Hz G1 is a solid IEM that is held back by its marketing. It's marketed improperly, it's marketed for something that it's not good at, and it kind of puts emphasis on something that is a weakness of its. It's not a proper gaming IEM, but it is a highly ergonomic IEM that you get really solid metal shells for. It's got a comfortable sound signature that's based on the Harman curve. It's got deep, juicy bass. It's got decent sub bass. The mid bass is at least somewhat tangible, and the mid range is warm and comfortable, and it's relatively cohesive. The treble, even though it's relaxed, is resolving enough to get the meat of the detail across, even if it doesn't finish following through. And it comes with a case, even if I don't really like the case. I mean, there's plenty of value to be had here for someone who has $35 and needs something that is bassy and that works, and they don't have to go hunting for any other accessories or anything like that. So the G1 gets it's pretty good rating from me. No, not a giant killer, not the God's gift to gamers, but you know, it's a solid IEM. And with that, I hope that you found this review useful. Again, this is a From the Vault episode, so I wrote my original written review a while ago and just never got around to filming a video. The 7Hz G1 that I have right here was sent to me by Linsol, so thank you to them for that. This is, again, every time I get something sent to me, there's a list of terms I give the manufacturer, and it's that you have no editorial control over what I say, when I say it, where it goes. You kind of just have to deal with it. And since 2016, that's the way I've been doing it, and it's worked pretty well so far. So if you would like to give me some feedback on my presentation, or what I said, or what I didn't say, or if you would like to request a comparison, you can do so in the comments down below. If you'd like to flame my messy hair or my empty psychopath wall, comments down below. If you want to get in touch with me in a way that doesn't involve the YouTube comment section, you can do so by DMing me on Headfi. My username over there is Cinder. I have a Facebook page for Residence Reviews. I have a TikTok that I hardly ever use. I guess you could reach me over there as well. And with that, as always, happy listening.